Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Just comment yes if you are ready for the session. Am I audible? All right, great to see this. So, today we are having a session on why understanding code matters more than copying it. So, you all have reached a point, we have crossed almost half of your journey at Girl Script Summer of Code. You have learned how to contribute, of course, you have learned how to get things done. But the most important part in today's era, when we have AI that can do everything, is to understand what is the right way to actually contribute. Because everyone says that if AI can write the code, then what is the need of a developer? And to talk about all of those things, today we have with us Mr. Chirantan, who has been selected for multiple interviews in many big tech companies. He cleared those interviews, rejected those job offers, and got back into academia. He's currently working as an assistant professor in cybersecurity and AI, doing his PhD. And now I would be handing over things to Mr. Chirantan, who would be carrying forward this session.
Hello everyone. I think you have joined the live session. First of all, I would like to thank GSoC team, our host, and one of my student who invited me for this session. So I would like to thank everyone who has given me this opportunity. So today we will be talking about why understanding code matters more than copying it. As we already know, this is the era of AI. After, I guess, COVID-19, we have witnessed the rise of AI so unprecedented that we cannot imagine our life today without AI. So the problem with the AI is we are basically just dumping the prompts and generating the code. So today I will mainly focus on the part where we are just coding the our software development environment, where we are coding it with the use of AI, but without understanding it. And what are the cons of it? And I will also discuss the pros of copying code. But yeah, we will see why the cons outweigh the pros. So we can move to the next slide. I have prepared a slide for you all for the community so that we stay on the topic because I have so much to talk about for AI and my experience also with AI. And I have so much to talk about. So basically, we don't uh, step out of the topic. So that is why I have prepared a slide for you. So we can move to the next slide. First of all, I will explain why the illusion of speed is there. We can move to the next slide for this. Yeah. So today we are getting the illusion of speed. So when the AI came into the market, everyone was saying that it will increase the productivity of software developers. So let me give you a little bit of harsh reality of it, the illusion of speed. Now we are giving the prompt and AI is generating the code for us. And without understanding the code, if we paste the code in the ID, whatever ID you are using, it will be very devastating in the long run. So I will use an analogy of basic physics for this. That is velocity versus speed. Now, we already know velocity includes magnitude and direction, and speed includes only the magnitude part. So today's scenario, what is happening whenever we are generating code like magic, so it is generating code very fast, but it doesn't have any direction. If you are not understanding the code and you just copying and pasting the code, what will happen at the long run that you will find yourself in a jungle without any compass. So that is the analogy I'm using. So in the jungle, you can run fast, you can go anywhere, but without the direction, without the compass, you will be lost. You will run on circles basically. So this is the analogy that I always use to introduce uh, the generation of code with AI, how it increases the productivity, but it's all just an illusion. After that, let's move to the next slide, which is a term we already have heard, that is vibe coding. So what is vibe coding? Let me first introduce what is vibe coding. So vibe coding is basically a term that has been given when you are writing, when you are generating the code with the help of AI tools, and the code looks fine, everything works fine, but after some point of time, when your code base grows very big, then you start to see the problems. Now, I have basically divided this vibe coding mirage into three parts. First is the security gap. Now, whenever you are just copying the code from some AI tools, what it does, it generally skips the security factor. Now, I will give you one real world example that happened few years back. That is the very famous log4j error. Now, what is log4j error? It was basically hidden in the Java programming language. So for many years, people were just writing the code on Java and pushing the code into production without realizing that the code has error in it with the name of log4j. After, I guess, 10 or 11 years, recently that log4j error was being found out. So if we think about in a very big level, you see the code were in production. Many software were being developed on Java language, but everyone skipped the major security flaws. So I would recommend that you go to Google and Google it out. What is log4j error and how it affected numerous of softwares, because we were just piling up on the memory without creativity. So what was happening? We were writing the code, putting it into production without realizing the security gaps, without auditing the code. So the audit phase is very important for a developer. Now the second part is the zero context. Now whenever we are in the software development environment, what we basically do is we sit with our peer members, team leads, junior developers, senior developers, and then we discuss how the business logic is going to work on our software. So this is the part where your AI tools doesn't know your business. What you are doing, you are just telling the AI, you are just giving the AI some kind of prompt to generate the code for you. But what is happening, it doesn't know how your software is working, how many levels of architecture are there in your software. So without any context, if you are generating the code, it will, in the production level, it will generate some kind of errors. We call it as anomaly in software development terms. Now what are anomalies? So anomalies is when your code does not behave in the way you want it to behave. So basically you don't know what your code is doing, and if you don't know what your code is doing, you are not a good developer. So without zero context, without the business logic, the code is guaranteed to break in the long run and in the production level. When you will scale it, we will talk about it later in the session. And the third part is hallucination. Now, this is the major problem that we are facing today in the scenario of AI. What is happening? The we say that AI is hallucinating. Now, what is hallucination? Hallucination means something which is being pushed forward into the context and it doesn't exist. For example, if we take some real world example, we can say that he or she is seeing something which does not exist. So it is the scenario with the AI also. Hallucination means it is generating some codes, it is importing some libraries that doesn't exist or is irrelevant to your software development cycle. So this is what happens when you are vibe coding. In software development scenario, most of the time what happens is the AI is importing some kind of libraries, some jargons. I will give you one example. When we were in my training period, so our trainer said us to develop a backend for e-commerce website. So what we did, we were using the Claude AI for brainstorming and code generation. So one of my teammates, what he did, he just generated the whole code from there, and he said that "Okay, our mentor will not know." So we pushed the code into GitHub. After that, when our mentor checked the code, he said, "Why have you written import java.util.star?" So this is what happens when you don't check your code. Now what it is doing, it is importing all the utility libraries. Now in a lower level, it will not affect your code, but when you will write code for some big corporation, some big conglomerate, what will happen if you import all the libraries at once? It will put a overhead, and over the time, your time complexity of the code will increase. We will see how this cost of ignorance of quadratic time complexity will lower your code and how it affects your whole productivity. So let's sum up all the part that we have discussed. We will move to the next slide for this. Now I have named this as copy pasta. We in our college and university days, whenever someone used to copy, so we say this copy pasta. You have done copy pasta. So what are the pros of copying the code? You can see it is faster development and reduced effort. So these are the only two pros that you will get if you are copying and pasting the code. Faster development and there is reduced effort. So you will get more time for yourself. But if you look at the cons, so there are very big cons of this. First of all, it is lack of ownership. If you are not writing the code, that means you are not understanding the lines of code that you are writing. And if you don't understand the lines of code that you are writing, it means you don't know what your code will generate or what will be the output of that code. I will give you one example. I will not name the company, but what happened over there, that company used to push new features or new codes on Friday, so that if the code breaks, they have time for Saturday and Sunday to roll back to the previous versions. So what happened? They were adding a feature. It was actually the software was actually for a banking, a major bank of India. So what happened? One of the junior developers generated the code and not the whole code, but a part of it. And the team pasted the code so that with the development, because the deadline was approaching. So they pasted the code and it was working fine on testing level. Now there are testing level and there are development level. Now, in the testing level, your code may work fine because there is less stress. There is stress testing and load testing in software development, whatever. So in production level, the code may break if you don't understand the code. So what happened? They pushed the code on Friday, and I think it was 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. something like that, and the whole code base broke. So the company was on haywire. At 12 o'clock, everyone was getting call who pushed the code, who pushed the code, and no one was taking the responsibility of that code. But this is what happens when you don't understand the code, because you don't have the confidence, you don't build the confidence that I can solve this problem if the code breaks. So lack of ownership, and after that, the reduced accountability that we are seeing, both are interrelated to each other. Now, you don't own the code, you don't understand the code, so you don't know why the code breaks, and you are not taking accountability for it. Now, in big conglomerate, big companies, this is a very negative drawback if you don't take the accountability. There are scenarios when code breaks, code will break, but that doesn't mean that you will just put it aside and ignore your responsibility. So this is one of the reasons that you should be understanding, comprehend the code. You should know this line of code will do what. Okay. So lack of ownership and reduced accountability. Now, in programming language, we have one concept known as AOP, aspect-oriented programming. Uh, there, what happens, if any developer is pushing the code, they can keep log of that. So after that, they track down which developer pushed the code, and then they finally confronted that person. And basically, it was very negative impact for his career. So I would say that uh, you should always understand the code. And the third part is stagnation. If you are piling up, if you are generating code without understanding the code, you are stagnating your creativity. You are limiting yourself. Now, a problem can be solved in various ways. There are numerous of ways which a problem can be solved. That is why we sit together and brainstorm in the teams. So it will lead to stagnation. Okay. So these are the pros and cons of copying and pasting the codes. Now you understand why pros and cons far outweigh the pros. I guess I have made it clear through this slide that you should never ever copy and paste your code. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So this is what I was talking about, the cost of ignorance. Now, if you are ignoring everything, like I'm living under a rock, so what will happen? Ultimately, it will catch up to you. A copied code might pass all the test cases, but when your code is in development, when it is pushed to the live servers, there you can see the quadratic time complexity. Now, I think you already have studied or might have come across this term time complexity as well as space complexity. And an optimized code, how do we say that a code is optimized or a code is working fine? By calculating the time and space complexity. I will recommend everyone to go to LeetCode and practice over there. There are, in LeetCode, what will happen? You will get various kinds of problem, and you have to sit there and brainstorm and find the optimized solution, which will take less time as well as less space. Okay, so go to LeetCode. Now, I remember solving one of the problem, that is you have to print two pairs of numbers from an array so that the sum of those two numbers is equal to the number which is being given by the user. For example, if I give 5, then from the array you have to print 3 comma 2, and you cannot print the 2 comma 3, so you have to remove the duplicate. So to solve this problem, there are various methods. So one of the method that I found personally, which takes less time as well as less space, was the two pointers method. So to solve all the DSA problems, you will need to uh, understand each data structure separately, which is obviously we will come to that, the good practices of software development, where we need to study the data structure. So why do we need data structure? So the data is being stored as well as we can efficiently retrieve the data and we can use the data. So this is the part where data structures comes very handy. In the production level, if you use the code without using proper data structure, what will happen? Your test cases will be passing 100, 200, 300, 1000 test cases may pass. But when that test case becomes 1 million, 10 million, your code might not work as you expected it to. So this is where the time complexity comes in. I will not go deeper into this complexity, but basically what is happening over here, if you ignore these small basic building blocks and concepts, you are going to have a compounding effect over a big period of time. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, that is the bedrock of engineering. I have not written software engineering. This is the bedrock of engineering. Now, what engineers generally do? They solve problems, right? And entrepreneurs also. But what engineers do? Engineers use tools, techniques. Now, let me discuss these three parts which are interlinked to each other. First of all is the data structures that I was talking about. Now, to solve problems, you can use hash set, you can use linked list or any data structure per se. But when to use which data structure will be a very crucial tool. For example, if there is a software that you are building which does frequent searching of data, so the recommended data structure over there will be the hash table because it works in linear time. So you need to understand the data structure when to use it. Okay, so it's not about that you are just learning the data structure, but when to use it. Next part is algorithms. We all know that what algorithm does. So it is step by step instructing your system. So you have to design good algorithm. And then the third part is your scalability. So your software is scalable. This is the part where software engineers uh, beat the entrepreneurs, because softwares can be scalable. Softwares can be scalable to infinity. You're getting my point? Because if the software doesn't have any limitation, if you build a local shop, so you are limited to that area only. You are selling your product to that area only. But if you are building a software to sell that product, for example, Amazon or Flipkart, you can scale it infinitely to the whole globe. So that is the term we call system scalability. This is the part where software engineers becomes very rich, I will say, because they can scale their business to the whole globe and they can connect to each and every corner of the world. So in the next slide, I have included one quote. We can move to, yeah. So the pilot's rule. A pilot who does not understand the fundamental mechanics of flight cannot safely land an aircraft when the automatic autopilot instruments fail. Now, we already know that a plane has autopilot mode, but it requires two pilots to fly the plane. That is the analogy of AI. So AI is the autopilot mode. It can write code for you, it can generate code for you, but when the system fails, when it doesn't perform, when it performs anomaly, when it hallucinates, when it generates code that is not optimized, that is where you need a pilot who can handle the code. Now, who are these pilots? These are the good software developers who understand the core fundamentals of coding. Now, if you have learned about object-oriented programming languages, we have concepts of polymorphism, inheritance. These are not coding. These are not part of coding. These are real-world concepts that you need to understand how two modules are interacting with each other. So I guess I will not go very deep into this part, but I will just give you one example. The software that were being made now in today's era, basically the freshers that generally joins the company, what basically they do, because I have given so many interviews and I have interacted. Many of my friends are working with big companies. So as a freshers, what they really do? Now, as a freshers, they basically either migrating the code from the old platform to the new platform, or they are adding some new features to the existing ones. So as a fresher, you need to focus on understanding the code. If I remember when in 2020 or 21, IBM used to hire their full stack web developers by debugging context. I don't know if they do it now or no, but yeah, they used to give a backend code, and all the shortlisted participants, they used to sit and they introduce 5 to 6 bugs over there. Now you have to find all those bugs and then debug it and then generate the output for the system. So I remember it was, I guess, Spring Boot backend. So they introduced 5 bugs over there. We had to find all the bugs, and each bug were linked to other. So if you know the stack trace or dependency error. So what happens over there, when you fix one part of the code, it is dependent on another module. Okay, so this is how you understand which line of code needs to be changed. Now all the code is being written, so you need to just change 1 or 2 lines of code. And to do that, you have to be very, very proficient in your basic coding skills. The concept that I was talking about, polymorphism, coupling, cohesion, class, objects, these are the basic building blocks of a coding. If you understand this concept, you can debug a code. So one of the reports that was being published by NASCOM, they said that 80% of software developers' time goes on debugging of the code and not writing the code from scratch. So let's move to the next slide. That is, you need to focus on problem solving over syntax. Now, syntax will be handled by the AI. I'm not saying that don't use AI. Use AI just like mathematicians use calculator to increase their productivity. But you need to focus on problem solving. And you have already heard about this hundred and millions of time, but I will repeat one more time. Focus on problem solving and creativity. I remember one of the interviews that I gave in Pune. Uh, they asked on the first round. They asked me, 3 cats are moving in a circle with the same speed. Now you have to calculate the probability of the cats colliding with each other. Okay, so this was the problem that was being given to me. You have various number of methods to solve this problem. You can find this problem in Geeks for Geeks, by the way. They basically was trying to understand what my approach is, what my problem solving approach is. So, also, I would like to highlight that I was watching one of the streams of GSOC. So someone has asked the question that what is the difference in service-based company and product-based company. The preparation of DSA in service-based company and product-based company. So this is the difference that I told you. In product-based companies, they will measure your approach. They will measure how you perform in a pressurized environment and how well you know your DSA, data structure. So they will not directly tell you to solve some problem. They will give you an open-ended question and they will look for your approach, how you are solving that problem. So in this slide, you can see the syntactical problem will be how do I write a loop in Python without throwing a compilation error. So this is basically what we do whenever we are using any AI tools, for example, ChatGPT or Claude. In recent year, Claude is very famous for generating codes, good codes. So what we write as a prompt, how do I write a loop in Python without throwing a compilation error? So it will generate a code like magic. But what should you be asking to the tool? You should be asking, how do I process this dataset efficiently without overloading the memory? Now, this prompt will change the generation of the code. How? Now your AI tool will look for optimized code. It will look for the code that takes less time and as well as less space. So this is the logic problem. So you should always focus on the logic. I will say languages will come and go. Now, in the career of every software developers, they have faced this crisis. C, when the developers were in C, when they were developing software in C, and then C++ came out, they were reluctant in moving to the C++ environment. But when they understood the concept of object-oriented programming, they eventually moved to C++. After that, Java came into play and dominated the whole market for more than 10 years. And after that, now we can see Python because it introduced so many libraries, so many abstractions. So Python became the most popular. Now, these languages will come and go. The AI models will come and go. What will remain with you is the problem solving and how you approach a problem. That is where the human intelligence will always excel the artificial intelligence. How much creativity do you have? Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Also, I will say that we will be taking questions because we want this session to be interactive. Okay. Okay. So if you are just copying and pasting the code, what is happening at a long run, there will be compounding interest. You already know about the simple interest and compound interest. So the interest will be what compounded over the time. The three big problems that I have identified are lack of documentation. So in every coding classes, the prerequisite on the class one, we teach about the comments. So if you're not using proper comments, what is happening? You are writing a code, but that code can be understood by the other people or not. That is the basic logic behind the documentation part. So you need to document each and every part of your code. This line does this thing, this line does this thing. For example, in Spring Boot, you are writing a backend development server and you use auto add annotation over there. If you don't know, you know the annotation, what it does. But does the another person knows it? Or you you switch the company, you write the code for one company and then you switch the company. When the junior developers come into that company, does they know about what you have written? So a good software developer must understand what each line of code does. For example, I said @auto-add. You should understand the dependency injection, reflections. These are the concepts behind uh, the auto annotation, how the message is being passed between objects. It becomes very easy for other people in the team if you document each and every line of your code. Then we have the complex code bases. So you already know what a code base is. In software development, the legacy softwares that we call the older softwares, we call it as legacy softwares, they were monolithic in nature. So all the code was being written in one module. This is known as monolithic code. But nowadays we are shifting to microservices. Now each and every module can be hosted anywhere where Kubernetes, Docker, these things comes into play. So whatever it does, we will not discuss this today. But basically, over the time, your code base will grow like a mountain, and there will be millions of lines of code. So if you don't document the codes properly, if you don't understand these codes, then it will become very complex in the long run. And the third is unforeseen consequences. This is the part where a small changes in the code will have a rippling effect over whole software. So I will give you one more example of that. If you have heard about the EPFO, Employee Provident Fund, that is being uh, handled by CDEC, basically. So recently, what if you go to their website, I don't know if it is down right now, but the OTP was not coming. So what was happening? The EPFO project is being written in PLSQL, basically. So what they are hiring freshers on that project, and then they are migrating that PLSQL part to Spring Boot backend so that everything can be automated. So the code base is of millions of lines, and one of my friends, I will not say it, but yeah, one of my friends basically changed one line of code, and he doesn't know what the effect will be. So the OTP system was not working over here. So these are the kind of small mistakes where you will have unforeseen consequences of a small line of code, how it impact the whole project. Now, EPFO is such a big project that you don't have even a minute chance of error on that. So it was a very big backlash. So they had to complete all the changes and roll back into previous versions. I think in that night only. So these are the things that you should keep in mind when you enter into industry. Now let's move on to the next part, next slide. That is creativity in coding. So be relevant, to be relevant in the field of software development, which is being affected by the AI in recent years. We have already seen the news of layoffs, and recently Xbox and Microsoft has laid off 2,700 employees. But it was not because of AI. But yeah, somewhere the AI is affecting the jobs of software developers. So you have to bring creativity in your coding. So first of all, is unique solutions. This is where human intelligence works best. I remember when we used to be in the training program, we had one computer and two partners on that computer. So basically, whenever I was writing code, my partner was looking in the screen, and whenever he was writing a code, I was looking in the screen. So what is happening over there? If I am writing code and I overlook some line of code, I overlook that part and the code is not running, he can solve that for me. Because sometimes when we are writing code, we tend to lose our focus and go in some other direction. So this is a part of extreme programming also. If you have heard about it, in software development, we study extreme programming. Now, in extreme programming, in one system, two or three partners work together. You have to sit with your colleagues and brainstorm how you can solve. You have to find unique solutions, creative solutions. In the second part, we have the improved design because I was in full stack web development for almost 1.5 years. So I will say that the most difficult part is designing the UI, the user interface of a software. So you have to be very creative how you solve the user interface or how you are presenting your software to the user. And the third part is cross-disciplinary application. Now, the most innovative example that I can give right now is if you have heard about the Astro Talk. So it is so interesting concept like astrology is a different thing and software development is different thing and how they bring it together. It's like a miracle. In astrology, we are studying about the planets, palm reading, horology, numerology, and then converting it into a full-fledged web application and then Android app and iOS app is modern marvel. I would say it is like a magic. This is the best example that I can give about creativity in coding. How these two different different streams come together and create something beautiful. And then we move to the next slide. That is, how do you future-proof your career? So first of all, you need to read and analyze the code. You need to thoroughly read the code because in India, most of the companies are service-based, and the companies that are from outside are product-based. So from my experience, I will tell you one thing that most of the service-based companies, they are just providing consultancy services. So they are just adding some features to the software. They are debugging the software, this kind of things. They're not creating something new. So from my experience, I would say that freshers should target the product-based companies. But anyways, as a fresher, you should first get in the industry. So you should be very, very well equipped to understand the code. Second thing is ask questions. Ask questions to your team members, ask questions to your seniors about what this code is doing, what this line is doing. I know it will be annoying, but it will be very beneficial for me. I used to do it. I used to pester my friends, I used to pester my senior software developers. I used to pester my mentors ki, what this line of code is doing, what this line of code is doing. So they can give you good insights, which AI cannot give you. Third thing is that you should document your findings. Always keep a writing pad with you, pen or paper. I will suggest. We used to always keep pen and paper. Our mentor used to say that write it, because if you are writing something, if you are documenting it something, it goes into your muscle memory and subconscious mind. So you should write everything, document the findings, and at last review and refine that code. Revisit the code, the errors that were being generated, what this line of code was doing, so that you can comprehend the whole software. You can comprehend how the modules are working with each other. So this is the cycle that you should follow. Read and analyze, ask questions, document your findings, and read and refine. Even you can take feedbacks from your peers also. And at last, we will move into the next slide. It is almost 1 hour, I think. So at last, by this quote, I will be ending this session. Master the why. Dominating the how is temporary, but mastering the why is what makes you irreplaceable. In today's AI era, I would say that if you want to be irreplaceable, you need to possess different kind of qualities, and one of which is understanding the code, comprehending what my code is doing. So this is very important. If you have, I don't know if you have heard about the Glasswing project, Project Glasswing, that is being developed by Anthropic, which is the parent company of Claude. So they have released one model, Mythos 5, which is so powerful that the US government has to put restriction over it from the public so that it is not being misused. I don't know what the future holds, but one thing I can say is that the AI will become much more stronger. The LLMs, large language models, will become much more capable. But if you know, if you understand the logic behind your code, if you follow all those steps that we have discussed in this session, then you will become irreplaceable at some point of time. So, by saying this, I would like to end this session. And one more thing I would like to say that uh, there is a recent report by Anthropic that has been published on 5 March 2026. It is about the impact of AI on labor market. You should study it. I will not go deep into that, but I will just briefly discuss the key findings of that paper. So first of all that they have discussed is the theoretical capacity of AI is far more behind the practical capacity. What this means? It means that particularly in the field of computer science and mathematics, particularly in software development roles, the AI can automate everything, but it has just been able to achieve 28% of that goal. 90% of this computer science and mathematics part can be automated, but they have reached only 28%. So there is good news for everyone that AI is not taking your jobs right now. Second finding was that the AI will not replace your jobs. Now, what is happening? The companies are not hiring immediate freshers. Okay, so they are just firing the older population from their company. This was the second finding. And the third finding was the exposed jobs. Now, I would hate to say, but the most exposed job that was in number one was the programmer. So if you are a programmer who just copying and pasting the code, there's a bad news for you. And then we have 10 jobs over there which can be automated, and the AI will take over those jobs. So I hope that this session is productive for you all. And if you have any questions, I can answer it. And by this, I would like to say thank you everyone for joining this session. Thank you, our host, and thank you, Sampada Tiwari, for inviting me to this session. Okay, so someone has asked that, sir, could you tell me a little bit about code optimization? So yeah, basically, what code optimization is that you are comparing your code with uh, other codes. For example, the most relevant example that I can give you, if you go to lead code, there is a discussions section over there, and over there you will find various methods of solving one problem. Uh, in that solution, in that discussions, you will find a part where it is written that how the time complexity is being measured over there. So if your code is running in 1 millisecond, doesn't mean that your code is optimized, because it might take space. It might be taking more space. For example, if you are using a hash map, it does your job in less time, but it takes more space. So this is the part where you need to optimize your code. There's a trade-off between time and space. If you are reducing the time, the space consumed will be more, or if you are reducing the space, time consumed will be more. So you need to understand it, and it totally depends on the programmer, the coder, how they are optimizing their code. One of the questions is that how understanding code improves debugging, problem solving, and coding interview performance. Okay, so I will give you one example that one of my project was municipality complaint management system that we created. So based on this, I got one interview in a company. So what they basically started asking that, first of all, they went to the DBNS section. They asked me that how many tables are there. Then I told about how many tables are there, and then they checked my GitHub repository, and then they directly asked me, why have you used decrypt algorithm in your backend? So that particular line of code, because I have written because there are various encryption algorithms, for example, HS256 or decrypt. So I told them that I have used decrypt because of salting. But if two passwords are same, if two users have the same password, then we need to add something so that it can be differentiated when we are storing it into the database. So this is the part where you need to understand the line of code, which I think will answer your question, how understanding code improves debugging and problem solving. 80% of the time we are debugging our code. In today's time, which one should I learn, React Native or Flutter? See, it depends on it. It depends on the user requirements, the company which it is using. I have worked on React because it uses the concept of reusing the components. So it uses, basically it uses hooks, it uses the components, and we don't need to write each and every uh, part of that component. What about using it to understand the code base? Yeah, you can use to understand the whole code base. ChatGPT and other tools cannot work like that, but I guess Claude AI can directly connect to your code base and understand your whole code base. That is what I'm saying, that you should be a good prompt engineer also. You should be good at prompting also. What you are asking the AI tool matters so much more. we will be taking 2 or 3 more questions. What are the biggest risks of relying on copied code without fully understanding how it works? So I already gave you example. I cannot reveal the name of the companies, but I have seen uh, codes that works fine on the testing, local testing levels, but when they push the code in production level, it just breaks the whole server. One of the example I have given you, the EPSO project, and most of the projects that are being handled by junior developers basically breaks because of this reason only. I have given you numerous examples for that. When is it acceptable to reuse or copy code, and how can we ensure we truly understand it before using it? See, using a code is different thing. You are basically reading someone else's code, and then you are introducing some of your concepts with it. But if you are directly copying the code from somewhere, for example, ChatGPT or something like that, there are strict rules on different kind of platforms, HackerRank, CodeSafe, LeetCode. They are not allowing you to directly copy and paste a code. If you are using the code, that is a very different thing. What our session is focused on is copying and pasting the code without understanding what the code does. If you are using the code, that means you understand that code to some degree. You are not directly just copying the whole thing and pasting it, because when you will move to modularity, when you will achieve modularity, different modules interacting with each other, even a single line of code will break all the other modules that is being dependent on your first module, wherever you are making the changes. So if you are directly copy pasting the code, it is not acceptable, but if you are using the code, it is acceptable. What approach should I use to improve my logic? So basically, if you want to improve your logic, you have to practice the DSA part, that is, the problem solving part and the DSA. I would recommend that you visit various kind of competitive coding platforms. Over there, you will find smaller problems based on arrays, dynamic programming, tree traversals, then greedy algorithms, streams. So you filter it out, filter these topics from various websites, and then you understand what others have written. What I was saying, that go to the discussions part. If you go to the discussions part in the lead code, you will find various other developers working on the same problem. So read that, how they are approaching the problem. This is the only way that you can improve your logic. After some time, when you're engaging your brain, when you are discussing with your friends how you are solving it, you will naturally develop a logic. That is what makes human beings different from artificial intelligence, right? You will generally develop that problem solving and logic building approach. Also, computer programming is just like mathematics. If you are not practicing enough, or you have stopped coding for more than 5 months, 6 months, you will naturally uh, forget the concepts. So you have to keep on practicing, keep on updating the new tools, the new methods. One website I came across is the Algo Monster, where they have identified, I guess, 20 patterns to solve all the leet code problems. of data structures. So you should read this type of uh, vlogs, basically vlogs. So if you understand the patterns, if you identify the patterns, you can develop the logic. Okay, so uh, I think we have achieved the time complexity of this session, and I will be transferring this session to our host.